Me 30 female, with my husband 32 male of 8 years, found possible evidence of cheating. I'm devastated. I'm at a loss on where to begin. He's working late tonight, or so he claims, so I thought I'd drop in and ask for some advice. Sorry for the incoherent nature of this. I've been rather upset and sobbing a lot this evening. We've been married for 8 years and have been together since college, right after college grad for me. We were a match made in heaven. Many friendships have come and gone, but we have always found happiness in one another. We were both adventurous and traveled together when we were initially married. We argued a little, but not much. We had children. The first, planned, kid was 6 years ago. The second, surprise child, was 3 years ago, and the third is now 3 years old. It's been difficult to spend time together since having children, since both of our parents live a few hours away and there aren't many babysitters that can manage our rowdy youngsters. Husband has a hard, stressful job and has had to postpone holiday plans many times in the previous 6 years due to a nasty employer. Every day, we saw one another for what seemed like minutes, and our children, although delightful, took a lot of our time and energy. His employer was replaced around 6 months ago. His hours immediately became more acceptable, and his stress levels decreased. Still working long hours and traveling on certain days, but it's getting better. We spent nights together again, but this time something was different. It seemed like we were strangers, just housemates with kids. We were simply so fatigued from the previous few years that we must have spent a few months resting, watching Netflix, and so on after the kids went to bed. It was all incredibly dull, and I felt quite alienated from the guy who was meant to be my companion the whole time. So we discussed it. I told him how much I missed him. We spoke about how we felt separated a few times. We hired a sitter, went on few dates, and things began to improve. He's been more affectionate and attentive. He brought me flowers once more. I felt overjoyed, as if I was going to reclaim my companion. I discovered something I didn't believe I was meant to notice around a month ago. He's been talking about this business trip, coming up in August for a week. It's been a bit of a sore spot for me since I think of summer as a time for family holidays, not work excursions, but I've been patient with you. However, as he was in the shower, his phone beeped, and I noticed an email from Allison with the subject "Our Trip." I felt strange looking at it, but when I confronted him about it, he checked his phone and said it was a spam email. I didn't think about it after that, but I haven't seen his phone left out since. I discovered something more about a week ago. A jewelry shop receipt for a substantial amount. Money has never been an issue for us, but I was astonished by how much it was for. I had a horrible sensation in my stomach, and I confess, sought for his personal laptop to see if I could spy through his emails, but he brought his personal laptop to work, something he'd never done before. I was starting to feel apprehensive, but I didn't want to bring it up with him. Perhaps I was pretending not to believe it. However, I discovered his credit card statement in his sock drawer this morning. Why was he keeping it hidden, you could ask? There were transactions dating back a month, all for places that guys don't generally buy at. I totaled them up and discovered that he had spent several $100s on what seemed to be women's apparel and lingerie. I've never seen anything from these businesses in our home, so what are they for? He's working more hours, yet he's still gone some nights. He may spend at least one evening a week with someone else. I'm not sure what to think, but I'm afraid of the worst. Is there anybody else here? Was I too unreachable while our children were younger? Is he joining them on their trip? Is this the Allison you're looking for? What will I do if he abandons me? For God's sake, he's buying her gifts. Isn't it generally a sign of a guy moving on or falling in love elsewhere? I'm at a loss on what to do. I can't spy since I don't know any of his passwords. I could contact his office to make sure he's there when he says he is, but I'm afraid if I speak to anybody, I'll start crying again. He'll be back in a few hours. So what will I do? I don't want to raise my children on my own. I don't want to be alone myself. Edit. The comments are terrifying me. But I'm grateful to everyone who is speaking to me, even if it's difficult to hear. I'd cool down a little, read. I'm not weeping anymore, and I'm going to phone my elder sister to speak to a real person about this. She lives a couple of hours away, but we've always been close, and she knows a lot about my spouse. I'll try updating again later. Thank you once again to everyone. Edit 2. I just had an odd talk with my sister. I told her everything, was getting worked up and upset, and weeping again. She cut me off and said, "It'll be all right, sis. You just need to relax and speak to husband when he comes home." I assure you that everything is okay. Hang up the phone, take a bath, relax, and wait for husband to get home. Then she said she loved me and hung up the phone. What the heck is going on in my life right now? I felt like she simply ignored me. She didn't appear to be paying attention to what I was saying. However, it seems that the majority of the commentators here are certain that something horrible is going on. I feel like I'm going insane. Update. My spouse contacted me just after I wrote my update regarding my sister and the phone conversation. He informed me that my sister had contacted him and that he was on his way home. I instantly panicked since I didn't feel prepared to speak to him. I was furious at my sister for phoning him, and to be honest, I felt like the world was collapsing around my ears. I had a nervous breakdown. I had no idea where I was until I heard the front door open and realized I was crying on my knees in the kitchen. My husband slid around the corner, and when I saw him, I burst out weeping even more. He knelt in front of me and began apologizing, and I just lost it. I began shaking my head and repeating, "No, no, no, no," until I couldn't hear what he was saying. He wanted to embrace me, and I stiffened my arms, as a child does when they don't want a hug, merely keeping it back. It took a few moments for what he was saying to sink in, but he kept saying, "I'm sorry for frightening you. Please listen to me. You need to understand what's going on. I'm not cheating. Please listen to me," again and over. I eventually came to a halt and just said, "What?" I was just exhausted and befuddled. It was welcome news. I spotted several comments in the original article that said maybe it was a surprise. Therefore, you received the big prize. Everything came out in the end. He phoned my sister for advice after our huge chats about rejoining. My sister's plan was for him to whisk me away for a surprise weekend break while she and my BAL cared for the kids. She introduced him to her buddy, a travel agent, remember Allison, to get things started. My sister and parents agreed to take turns caring for the kids for the week. The jewelry receipt is for a necklace that I will wear to dinner on our trip. The credit card charges are for some expensive clothing and lingerie he purchased for me for the vacation. He took some of my clothes with him to get the sizes right and got a lot of help from the salespeople. He claims they are my style, but they could just as well be bags at this point. So what's the big deal? My sister advised him that it would be more romantic if he planned it as a surprise. She didn't anticipate me finding out early and fearing the worst. I've had moderate anxiety problems my whole life, which have worsened after having children, but this was the worst it's ever been. I've never felt so completely out of control in my life. He didn't tell me everything straight immediately. Some had spilled out in that initial moment in the kitchen, but as I realized it wasn't the end of my marriage, I became almost incoherent with relief. This is embarrassing, but I wept so hard that I puked. At the very least, it was on the flooring. After I'd calmed down, he told me the rest. We spoke all night yesterday night. He showed me all of the emails, showed me our location, and we both became thrilled. I'm not upset at him, which he appreciates since my sister supposedly contacted him with a red alert. Hurry home immediately before your wife calls a lawyer message. She is aware of my anxiety difficulties, therefore I may have to question her choice to keep this all a huge secret from me. I'm too glad to be furious right now. I'm a bit worried about how insane I've become. I believe I need to work on this. It's not typical of me. What am I going to do if a true catastrophe occurs? Some individuals have said that I am codependent, and they may be correct, but that's for another time. For the time being, I'm enjoying my day with the kids and anticipating my vacation. Thank you for all of your advice and kind wishes. I apologize if I have caused any concern. You are great individuals to spend your time preparing to assist a stranger over the screen. I pray that your lives take an unexpected yet pleasant turn.